Hello, everybody. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to The Right Mindset. Today is Saturday, which means it's the weekend, which means we are on a live video. So every Saturday and Sunday we do live. Saturdays are usually educational, maybe a little lean to business advice occasionally, but on the rare occasion, once per month, we do what we call a writer sprint or productivity sprint. So today we are going to do some 20-minute bursts of writing and hopefully some productivity, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But more importantly, the goal is to have some fun. So during this productivity sprint, if you have questions or you just want to be a part and hang out and just laugh, because we end up usually laughing pretty loud here. The audience participation is well worth it in general. Hey, what's up, flowers? Welcome to the show. So yeah, like I was saying, today is going to be focused on the writer sprint and productivity hour. But that doesn't mean you can't ask me questions about writing, your own writing. If you're stuck on something, give it to me, splash me with it. It'll be fun. But we are going to do 20-minute blocks. I'm going to try to do at least 2 for this experience. But, you know, we usually get sidetracked and just start having fun. We start laughing. We start talking about what it is. So, but I am going to write a poll, let's see, to sort of like get some people's thoughts and ideas. And beyond the keyboard, what is your boom, 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 boom? All right, let's see. So yeah, uno momento, por favor, while I sit here and kind of work this out here. Let's see. Whoa. Sometimes the word count on here sucks on the tools. All right, but more importantly, how's everyone doing? You know, are you working? Are you getting stuff done? Are you making things happen? You know, are you having fun? You know, that's really the most important part. Is just we want to know what the deal is. Anyway, all right. So here's the poll. Boom, boom, boom. Feel free to answer that, ignore it, whatever you want to do. We will talk about the subject later today in the thing. Hola, what's up, Nicole? I'm eating brunch, but I'm stopping by to boop the like button. Boop the like button. What's nice, Nicole, is this is a productivity sprint, so you could eat while watching, and then you get to see me utilizing your lovely counter, because we're here to support the community and one another and the people who are amazing in our lives. So I'm happy to give you the watch time and also the viewage, because you're amazing. All right. Okay, let's see. Eating dinner and reading one of Emma's books. Oh, I know Emma's probably going to join us a little bit later on the talk board. She would love to know that. She'll be like super excited. She'll be doing like her little dance, you know, making a little noise, getting down tonight. She loves that kind of stuff. All right. So, yeah, anyway. So today we are going to play around with what we call doing the writer sprint. Like I said, there is a poll in the, if you're watching and you haven't done so already, please click the poll. We'll talk about it at the end of the hour. But more importantly, what are you working on? Let me know in the comments below what you'll be, even if you're not working on anything specific or writing, but like, you know, what are you doing? Are you painting your nails, you know, watching ants dance, whatever, you know, you let me know, we'll make it happen. But let's get right into it. Let's do our first sprint. We're going to do 20 minutes. But before we do that, let's see if I can find some music to let's see. What do we think about this one? I like this one. Like Feeding the Ducks. Isn't the name? Alright. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to feed the ducks while we play. Alright, here goes. Again, if you're just stepping in, we're doing a writing sprint and productivity sprint. Feel free to write along with us, or you could do whatever you want. You can clean the house, you can do whatever you want. But let's have some fun. So, boom, boom, and boom. Uno, dos, tres, bam. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. What we got? What we got? What's going on? Who's doing what? Where are we? Did we win? What's happening? All right. Okay. Okay. Let's get into the fray of it. Let's see what's going on here. We have let's see. We have some conversation going on here. What are you counting down for? I explained. We're just doing a sprint, Afghani. Welcome to the event. I'm always happy to see you here. I mean, I appreciate you doing the support. You're becoming part of the community, and that's pretty sexy. So I explain that. Be back in 14. Hey, yes, of course, Nicole. I am using your timer. As I stated, it's about sharing, supporting one another, and showing love. It's been a while. It's been about a year, I believe. I'll get it done. Do you need a 5, a 10, a 15, and a 20? Is that what you need? You need to make me. You need me to make you a couple of those. I'll pop them out. I'll see if I could jump on that this week. Yes, we are on the same brainwave. I wish I could make a countdown. Yeah, it's not as hard as you think it is. There are a few ways to do it, but you do need at least some sort of program. I'm sure you could download a timer, but like if you want to make it with a specific kind of style, that's really the issue. Eating bacon. You had me at bacon. So yeah, I use Photoshop. I use Vegas Pro. I pay for the service, so I pay whatever it is for the year, and then I could use the program as I see fit. Afghani, what happens in Vegas Pro stays in Vegas Pro. That is accurate. Did anyone work on anything? Do we accomplish anything? Do we have more to go? What's going on? Do you have questions? If you want, we could use this time to answer a question or two before we get back into it. I myself am working on chapter 30. I'm working on the outline for chapter 30 in the book about Kalen var Igrave. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. Ooh, I got some words today, so am reading. I got some words today, so I am reading. I like it. That makes me happy for you. Not right now, but I started working on a new sci-fi book. Oh, what inspired the sci-fi, good sir? And when you say started working on it, are you on the brainstorming stage? Are you in the outlining stage? Did you start diddle-daddling with some words on the page to get some chapters? I'd love to hear that. I'd love to know that, Mr. Afghani. Again, if you haven't done so already and you're watching, I have a poll in the... if you want to hit the votes... We'll talk about the subject at the end of the hour. At the bottom of the hour. I was listening to Eminem's Kill Shot, where he's like basically, he's dissing the Machine Gun Kelly so bad that Machine Gun Kelly ended up going into a different genre. And the reason I was doing it is sometimes I like to study like lyrics and stuff like that, just to see like how things are working and how there's wordplay. And I'm just I'm a fan of words, not necessarily. I wasn't listening to it for like, oh, I love rap. Not that there's anything wrong with the rap itself, but I love word study. I love structure. I love not structure as in like it must be rigid, but like structure like where you can see the rhythm of things and how you create that what do you call it? From Shakespeare, the atomic diameter. I can't say, my brain is not working. But I do like to see how also like you could create that poetic link between syllables and just like whatever the case is and just the play on words. It's very interesting to me. It's a short story I wrote that I decided to make it into a novel cause I came out too rushed. It came out too rushed, and the idea for it is really good. Well, that's exciting. I'm happy for you for that, Afghan. Please keep us in the know. We want to root for you. We want to celebrate you. We want to see this narrative come to life. And obviously, if you have any questions about the process, you know where you could ask them right here on the channel. MC1 was joking about singing Joy Division and Stained to cheer MC2 up today. I love that. That's good. That's good. Stained. That's a band I haven't heard in a long time. Stained. Yeah, that guy. It's been a while since I've right. Is that the right? It's been a while. That's the band, right? Oh yeah. It's been a while. What is it? And it's been a while since I first saw you. And it's been a while since I stand on my own 2 feet again. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's Love Stain. He was joking about singing outside. Oh yeah. Hey, sometimes you got to sing outside. That's funny. The song outside, right? Stain. How's that song go? That goes, and you bring me to my knees again. I don't know their music very well, but I do remember listening to them like randomly on what we would call MTV back in the day. Late to the show again, but that's okay. Was enjoying my day off. Day off? What's going on with a day off? How come people people that have days off? Gotta be working all the time. No, that's good. It's good. Welcome to the show, mister. Yeah, we're just doing a productivity sprint today. Just doing 20-minute blocks and seeing where it goes. And just having fun with ourselves today. Hello, Ro. Hello. Is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes. I can feel it between your thighs. Hello. Anyway. That's funny. Emma might be jumping in soon. I just got a message from her. All right. So, listen, let's do it. You want to go back into it? Let's go back into another 20-minute sprint. Let's do it. You want to go back and see where it goes? I'm glad the microphone's sounding good. I'm glad we're getting some good microphone today. But yeah, I feel I'm working. Like I said, I'm on chapter 30 for this outline. I'm on the extended outline of this book already. So, yeah, there you are, Emma. What is up, Emma? Yeah, we just want you to know we've been talking about you from the beginning of the top of the show. Much love to you as always, and we're someone. I won't say any names. I'll let them announce it. May or may not be enjoying some excellent literature from a fellow Great Britainer. And I just want you to know, I like seeing the common support between everybody. But anyway, as I was saying, yeah, because I have these this massive series / saga that I'm working on, and I know it's going to take a while before the first 5 books are done, so I decided to start working on, sort of shorter books, like one-offs or like a book that comes out. So that's what I'm working on today during the writer's sprint, and also the to be productive. Hey everyone, because at the end of the day, as writers, we got to keep our brain going. We got to keep doing what we're doing. Wow. Howdy everybody. So ultimately, not that everybody should be doing it. Not that every writer should be doing we should always be writing 17 books at a time. But I am writing multiple books at one time, and how do you do it, Thomas? How do you do it? Well, again, it's all about time management. I do all my quote unquote work stuff during the day, and then at night I have 2 hours of writing. And if I have multiple books I'm working on, sometimes I'll work on an hour on writing, and then I'll do the second hour I'll do 30 minutes outlining another book and 30 minutes kind of cleaning up something else. And that's the thing, you got to find what works for you. There is no one size fits all. It's just I'm in a situation where I have created sort of that freedom to work at night, and it allows me to sort of expand. But Also, writing nonfiction, I don't need the kind of uh, energy to write those. So when I'm working on more of the fiction stuff, I dedicate an hour to that for sure. But the nonfiction, a half hour gets me. I just wrote, I write a full chapter every night with the nonfiction. I'm flying through that, so it's all part of the thing. Do you have a routine? Yeah, I mean, the basic simple routine is ignoring my work day. And when I say work day, that means I'm either working on someone else's story, I'm developmental editing, I'm reading their stuff, I'm preparing for a class that I'm going to teach, whatever. That's like what my daytime is, and but that's also including, and this is very important for anyone to know. As writers, we also have to have our networking time, our marketing time. I got to keep my finances in order. So, like, the first 9 hours of my day, as long as it's not Saturday and Sunday, but Monday through Friday, the first 9 hours of my day is dedicated to my work, and that's me running my business. That's me doing what I got to do. And then at night, after I eat and relax, so, usually around 7 or 8, I'll sit down and I have a 2-hour writing block. And I'll either, whatever it is, I don't necessarily write for 2 hours, but that is my writing block. So that's where I brainstorm, that's where I outline, that's where I write, that's where I edit, whatever the case is. So that's my basic routine. I couldn't do more than 2 stories like that, as I would be bringing character. I agree with you. And to be honest, the nonfiction stuff is just me regurgitating like the knowledge that I have and just basically taking my lectures and then putting it into like a sort of more mentor kind of method, like where I'm just sitting across from somebody and I'm just like, this is what you should be doing. So right now I'm working on a how to write outlines book, like how to outline. But I'm also cleaning up and formatting the other 4 books in the Breaking Down Success series. So those books don't really take away from the brain power to like work on nonfiction. With nonfiction, though, I mean, with fiction, with the epic fantasy, like the Maven books, I'm not writing like a bunch of fantasy books. I have the Kellen one that I'm working on right now, and then I kind of work on the Maven ones throughout the week, knowing that like I'm not going to release those until I have 5 books done with them. So, do you have a word count? Yes and no. It depends. Again, nonfiction, I can throw out 3,000 words anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes. Like I just, because I'm literally just regurgitating. I'm not worried about like spelling or anything. Let me get the information out. When it comes to fantasy, it's a little slower. I would say it's probably half that. But even if I'm working an hour, so then I could still get out, a chapter, which would be about 3,000 words. Give or take. But at the end of the day, for writers out there, it's really not about word count. It's about consistency. It's about, are you finding ways to write, even if it's for 10 or 15 minutes. When I was learning guitar, my teacher that I had for, actually piano, I should say, I got this from my piano teacher, because I only had 2 guitar lessons, and then my brother took my guitar teacher. But my piano teacher said, look, in the morning, like before school, if you can just fiddle the keys. And I'm like, why is that? He's like, look, it's really just about consistency. If you're touching the keyboard, if you're just going through some of the motions, you're just going to just naturally become accustomed to that habit, to that playing. And that really helped. That got me to understand that it isn't necessarily about like overloading or dumping into something. And even though like when I started playing guitar more seriously, I did practice like 3 or 4 hours a day, but that might be split up. Before I went to school, I would pick it up and just fiddle faddle until the bus came. And then when I came home, I would just play a little bit until I did my homework or had food, whatever the case may be. Like, touching your craft is the important part. So even as a writer, if like you could find 10 minutes to just sit there and just think about your story, that is technically part of the writing process. So for anyone out there, I wouldn't necessarily worry about the voluminous word count and allow that to maybe create the stigma or the restriction or the fear or like, is my word count too low? Because in reality, there are famous writers in our history that would write 500 words a day, and they work 6 hours. And the reason is because they made sure those 500 words were just like whatever they were. They thought about it. They erased it. They could, so I would just say, all right, same flat. Oh, yeah, with the not being able to. I get it. Hey, I get that. That's understandable then. Yeah, yeah. Like, as long as they're not in the same vein, it really does help. I got 1,000 words today. Was over the moon. That's amazing, though. That's still really great. Getting out the words is great. Living and dying by that word count, though, could be dangerous. It could, because one day you might be like, oh, I only got 300 words. Oh, am I even good? And that's not really, word count doesn't really dictate that. Emma has been summoned. Emma. All right. Well done. Well done. I'm assuming to the 1,000 words. Excellent. Hey, Buttercup. Hi. Hi. All right. How come we still have our names in the chat? Oh, I don't know. Other lives I've been in, YouTube has forced the change to the @ Really? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. Interesting. I did not know. That's a little something to know. 300 is my minimum, but I am okay if I don't reach that. Yeah, that's a great way to approach it. It's like if I reach it, I reach it. It's really about consistency. That's the secret. 'Cause it changed yesterday. Oh, I think you're talking about the name thing. That is, I did not know about that. I did not know. I did not know. All right. Okay, let's do another. Who wants to do another 20 minutes? I'll give it to the audience. If you want to do another 20 minutes, we'll do another 20 minutes. If you want me to answer some of your questions, or you just want to riddle rattle for another 20 minutes and then call it a day, it's up to you. You're the audience. You're the people. Look, I'm the clown. I'm here to dance. You know what I'm saying? Do 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 do. So if you need whatever, I'm off downstairs for yogurt. I need that yogurt. Yum 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 yum. But if we did the 20 minutes, I could come back and we could talk about the poll. I needed that. All right, what do we got? What do we have? Oh, yeah. Oh, here's a question for the audience. You could think about this. You don't have to answer right now, but do you have old stories that you wrote where I know whatchamacallit, Afghani mentioned something about a short story, but what I'm saying is, like, do you have like stories that you wrote, like complete stories, and you were just like, these are amazing, and then you went back and read it and you're like, oh, this is terrible. Like, what did you do with that feeling, and why did you look at that as if it was terrible, and instead of looking at it like what could you learn? Like, I'm interested in that, because like even when I was younger playing music, like sometimes, like I had a friend who was always high when he was a kid, and he would listen back to his music that he thought was great when he was high, but now he was like sober and he's listening to it, he's like, what was I thinking? But it's like, what can I learn from it? What can I learn from my old writing that can help develop my new writing? So I'm always interested in that, like the way we look at our old writing, and instead of it just being like, this is terrible, like what was the lesson you got from the writing? But anyway, with that said, I think I'm going to do another 20 minutes. Think about that question, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the poll. So if you're watching the Sprint and Productivity Hour, and you haven't done so already, there is a poll in the comments, so feel free to vote, and then we're going to talk about that at the end of the hour. So let's do it. Let's get into it. All right. First things first. Same as the verse, because you need that. You need the verse. Here goes. Oh, wait, I got to bring this back to 1. 1, 2, 3. Boom. What is up, everybody? Yeah. Welcome back to the show. Hey, all right. Did we get some work done? Did you get some lettering done? Did you get some pages out? Did you maybe, I don't know, eat or have some ice cream? We just did another 20 minutes. I think that was exciting. That was a lot of fun. We did pretty good. We got 5 votes over here, but let's talk about Afghani. If you're still in the room, you had a really great comment about the process and everything here. With every new idea I have seems brilliant to me at first, but after writing and working on it, my confidence slowly dissipates. Now, let's be honest with the reality of the craft. All great writing is rewriting, okay? So no matter how good something is, it always needs some sort of refinement, some sort of work done to it. But I'm assuming based on this, it's that as you work on it and you start maybe taking away the soul of the piece, or maybe the voice of your author's tone, right? So this happens quite often, to be honest with you. You know, the refining process sometimes sort of clears out and cuts out the human element of it, the flow and the taste. So after writing and working on it, my confidence slowly dissipates. That was me last week. Thomas said it was far too early to be wibbly. Correct. You know, the process is going to be continuous. And but we can also fall into the over editing and the over questioning and the over, adjustments. And the real secret is, what's working for you, and less how can I just chisel away the statue of David until it's just stone. There is a certain part where you have to be this is the statue of David or something close to it, right? But that also takes time. It takes years of practice. It takes an eye. For example, when I was in the music industry, there was a point where I could just listen to something and be like, okay, this is working. This is good, right? You just become aware of what is working, what isn't working. It's like being a doctor. You look at somebody's hand, you feel their hand, they tell you the symptoms, and their brain is just like, oh, it's this, right? It's any craft, any talent, any skill, any study. The more you work on it, the more you play around with it, the more you break it and put it back together, the more you research it, the more you just do whatever you got to do to sort of be in the mud, as they might say, the more naturalistic your understanding of it will be. The more you'll just spot these things and start just being so aware of it. It's sort of like my father used to say, he was in Vietnam. And he was like, there are certain things that they teach you in boot camp that become so part of who you are that even when you're out of the shit, as one might say, and you're back home in the civilian life, there are just certain things your brain is attuned to that you can't just shut it off. And obviously, he lived till his 70s, whatever. But there was this period in his 40s and 50s where he would just, a room was more than a room to him. A person's behavior was more than behavior. There was just something that he was just so in tune to. And it's that repetition. It's that being in the mud, being in the dirt, being in the trenches of anything. So if the skill is writing and craft, it's about immersing yourself in that world. And this is part of the secret, my friend. Don't only practice when you write. And what does that mean? It means if I only work on my craft when I'm writing one of my books, then when do I actually get to practice the skill and craft itself? When I played guitar, if I practiced only when I wrote songs, I'm not working on technique, right? So there was something I did with music where I would practice a technique. I would practice a gallop or, a up down, or I would practice arpeggios. And then that would sort of leak into maybe writing a new song or me playing with a song that I already have worked. But rarely did I write a song and then be like, how do I do, like, how do I make this work? It usually was I would take a technique, I would break it down, and I'd practice that technique. And then because I became so comfortable with it, I would then put it in a song. And then, of course, now I get to practice that technique anytime I play that song. But in reality, you do have to separate your writing time from your development time. And we as writers need that. We need to work on immersion. We need to work on dialogue. We need to work on subtext. We need to work on description. We need, right? And if we only work on these things while we're writing a book, we're not necessarily working on that skill. Okay? It's sort of like, all right, let's say you were an astronaut. I'm an astronaut. Thank you. All right. So you're an astronaut, and would it be beneficial to be up in space, being an astronaut, and something goes wrong? And now you have to work hard in that moment through the stress, the anxiety, through the I don't know what's going on, and try to fix an issue. Or would it be more beneficial to practice how to fix that thing that you know could happen, but isn't necessarily a high chance that it happens, but you practice it in a controlled environment down on Earth, and you work out the bits and pieces so that when you are in a high stress experience or you're just naturally working through it, you have more control over that situation. So look at writing and craft the same way. When you're writing your books, you're in it. You're in the mud. You're in the trenches. You're just kind of pushing through it. So you got to sort of like say, hey, I feel like my, dialogue isn't working. Or more importantly, to Afghan's point, my editing skills, my line editing. What am I looking for line editing? How do I maintain my voice while adjusting the line editing? What is clarity and how do I spot clarity? So that's worked by examining. So you see me do it where I examine somebody's prose. Examine prose. What are you noticing about it? Go deeper than, well, I read books. Reading books is not the same as studying lines, studying passages, studying flow. I was just talking about this with my friend yesterday. We were going over some chapters, and we were talking about the difference between pace and the speed at which you read. So there is a difference between a fast read and a slow read, and then there's a difference between fast and slow pace. And like most people don't understand the core truth of what pace really is, like at its essence. And because he and I are basically like teachers of writing, we could break it down to simplify it to be like pace is the speed at which information is presented to the reader. But like, what is that? And when people say, oh, the pace is uneven, like, but what does that mean for you? And that comes from training and studying and just giving yourself these, as Flower says, mandatory training. Yeah, you have to. You have to sort of like step into this practice mind where you're just like, you know what? I think today I'm going to write some prose that are just random prose about something. Maybe it's about my day, or maybe I'll just make something up that has nothing to do with my characters, and then I'll do the work. I'll be like, all right, let's practice some line editing, whatever the case is. So I can relate to that diminishing interest as well, Afghani. Yeah, bro, like to both of you and anybody, just the writers in general, like our job to when is enough editing enough, when is enough description enough, when is enough immersion enough, that comes from practicing the craft itself and not necessarily writing a book. Because when you're writing the book, you're not practicing the thing. You're writing. I understand, and my autism also understands that, yes, I am technically practicing when I'm writing my book. But what I'm saying is you're not focus practicing. You're not isolating. You're not, like if I rode a book, my bike naturally, of course you're technically practicing because your muscle memory is in action. But like, if I was like, oh, I want to do a specific trick, like I have to just focus doing that trick. I have to, I want to do a wheelie without, and then take off my hands. Well, now I have to do a wheelie, take off my hands. I got to do a wheelie, take off my hands. I got to do a wheelie, take off my hands. Right. And eventually you could just be riding your bike and do a wheelie and take off your hands. But you can't practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just be like, randomly, oh, here's this wheelie, take off my hands. All right, I won't do that again for another 6 months when I feel like it. Like, if you want to get good at something, you have to do isolation practice, and that would definitely help. All right. I hope I answered Afghani's concerns. All right, so let's move on to the poll. If you haven't done so already, please vote. I'll give it another minute or two for people who haven't voted to vote. The question is, beyond the keyboard, what's your most indispensable tool or resource for writing? A thesaurus and dictionary. Hey, what's up? 2, plotting software, outlining tools. 3, critique partners, writing groups. Or 4, inspiration from reading. Oh. Right now we're looking pretty good. 60% with inspiration from reading. We got 20% on thesaurus, dictionary, and critique partners, writing groups. All right, let's do it. Let's end the poll. The poll has been ended. The poll has been ended. All right, so inspiration from reading. Okay. For anyone who did vote for that, feel free to tell me in the comments what it is about reading that inspires you. The thing is, art sometimes inspires art, right? So, like, if we're painters and we're looking at a painting, it gets us going. I know when I used to look at comic books, I used to be like, let me do it. When I watch movies or television shows, I'm like, oh man, I just want to write. I just want to explore the story. So, absolutely, reading does inspire that sort of. But the truth of the matter, these 4 elements are essential to really developing your tools, your community, but more importantly, establishing your author's voice. So, and other elements of being a writer. So the reading, I don't subscribe to, like, if you don't read, you can't write mentality. But reading is important. So whether that reading is reading books, if it's reading about the educational element of writing, whatever the case is. I would also substitute reading for watching. So if you're watching movies and television and you're doing it and you're starting to see the movements and beats and understand what's going on in the narrative beyond the image, that is also a style of education that would teach you how writing works, how story works, right? So, and the thesaurus and dictionary, right, are tools, right? Having weapons, the swords, the spears, right? Our lexicon is, the more we develop our lexicon and understanding of words, the more we can play with it. But, more importantly, if we look at the dictionary, right, there's a difference between a good big word and the right word. So the more we understand the word's definition and how it connects to the source of options, right, the plethora of words, we can say to ourselves, all right, I know I have a different word for this. I have a more active word for this, or I have a stronger word for this. But is that word right? And how do we really understand that? So instead of looking for a thesaurus, like a synonym or something like that, what does the word mean? What does it really mean? What is the, like, if we look at the semantics of that word, how can you take the meaning of that word and maybe create movement? Maybe you can create a sense of immersion based on that word. So, to give a simple example, run, right? So if we look at run, okay, run meaning, okay, if we look at run and it says move at a speed faster than walk, never having both or all the feet on the ground at the same time, okay. Pass, number 2 is pass or cause to pass quickly or smoothly in a particular direction. Now, I don't know if you know this, but run has like something like 23 definitions, something like that. It's like ridiculous. It has a lot of definitions because there's running water, there's a running program, there's, those are 2 different things. I have the runs, I am running. Okay, those are different things. But so if you look at the word run, yes, we could simplify it and be like, I run, or they ran. They ran across the room, right? But if we just take their feet on the ground at the same right, never having both feet on the ground at the same time. So what is the dynamics of that? How do we see that dynamics? How do we represent that dynamics? How do we create tension with that truth? So instead of using the word run per se, how do you take the definition and start elevating that moment, that beat, especially if you want to slow down the pace and allow us to sort of linger in the moment? And in that case, we could talk about the fact that the feet aren't touching at the same time, the fact that maybe we're feeling the pound of each foot slamming against the pavement, never connecting at the same time, and keeping the threat far behind me, or behind Jacob or whatever. Okay, so sometimes when we understand the thesaurus and the dictionary, you can look at the word's meaning and start kind of contemplating on the meaning, and this could potentially lead to inspiration. This could give you insight into the movement of what a word means, and it allows you to sort of say, oh, I could use other words that are touching the essence of what this word means, right? So that's something to really think about as a writer, and to start creating your swords and spears and say, oh, words are my swords and spears. The thesaurus are my shields. And how do I really understand these words? Okay. The other element, or more importantly, the other element is critique partners and writing groups. Something that's so important about being inspired by other writers and being inspired by other stories, and just kind of building those communities. Remember, we should be inspired by things, but we're also running a quote-unquote business. We have a career we're trying to develop. We're trying to, and honestly, you're trying to do more than sell books. You're trying to build a relationship with your audience. You're trying to build a brand. You're trying to, create movement. And if you have other authors within your community that are sort of celebrating you and supporting you as much as you are celebrating and supporting them, there's a sort of like a cause and effect kind of a relationship between that, a symbiotic relationship where they're celebrating you. They're like, oh yeah, I work in a writers group with these other writers, and they're really, I love them. They're wonderful. They really get me thinking about my story, right? So these elements are so important to your development as a writer in general. So when and where you can find critique partners and writing groups, I highly recommend it, even if it's one or two other people. Because at the end of the day, as Flowers so elegantly put it, mandatory training. That's what we're talking about, right? Inspiration from reading, mandatory training. But read deeper than just reading a book. Study the words, study the lines, study the passages. A thesaurus and dictionary. This is mandatory training. Not that you should be reading the dictionary or reading the thesaurus, but when you're thinking of a word, and maybe when you're practicing, you say to yourself, well, what does that word really mean? And look at the definition. Read the definition. What is the essence of it? Because again, it's not about a good word or a strong word or an active word. It's about the right word, okay? Sometimes if you read something older or even more modern, but I'm mostly in the older books, you'll see that it's not always about the biggest word or the most, illiterate word, the word where it's just like, it's just a flowery word, pontification, it's, sometimes the old writing is simple, but the presentation, the subtext, even the context is written in a way that flows, not even flowery or lyrically, but like in a way where those words are moving. There's something in screenwriting when it comes to dialogue. Let's put it this way. There's a difference between how are we going to get into the vault versus all right, wait, listen. You're saying we need to get into the vault. The rhythm of that second sentence creates character. The first one is exposition. How are we going to get into that vault is exposition. Wait, hold on. We have to, how are we even going to get in? Are you telling me, right? The words used in the second example aren't necessarily as clear and articulate, but we are learning about the character and we are still moving the exposition forward. So It's not always about like the best word. In the sense of like this makes me look the smartest, or because when you're writing, it's not really about like look at me, I can write. It should be about what am I saying, how am I saying it, why am I saying it, and what gives these characters motivations, agencies, life, characterization, right? So when it comes to critique partners and writing groups and stuff like that, that kind of stuff helps you with that. It helps you start developing a deeper understanding of the process. It helps you understand the words you're using. A good group would be honest but not insulting. This is terrible. You don't even know what you're doing. Not helpful at all. But them maybe saying, this feels mechanical. What if you like broke it up? What if you played with it? If we could get past the emotional reaction to a judgment and say, all right, they're saying it's mechanical. They're saying I should try to break it up. Oh, wait. I can try that because the original still exists. The original's still there. I'm not going to delete it because Thomas said don't delete. Just create a new version of it, right? I don't need to delete it, but I can try it. And trying stuff does help. It does lead to inspiring the process of writing. It does lead to inspiring the willingness to go deeper and dig deeper, because great writing is rewriting. Great writers have great editors. But at the end of the day, if you're just going to be afraid to play with what you wrote and to see where it could go, you might not get anywhere. So a good critique partner, a great writing group, is going to push you to examine, to break, to twist, to illuminate moments, to say, I don't understand why we're focused so much on them drinking orange juice. Why don't we kind of just say they drink orange juice and get to the juicy part? Yeah, but like, look at the words I use to describe like how the liquid, soothe and isolate it in their mouth as their tongue absorb the tang of vitamin C. Like, why do we need that? How is that helping the character? Yeah, but listen to like the dance of words I'm using. I'm a really good writer. And it's like, well, what makes a really good writer? Is it pretty words? Or is it the clarity, context, being able to control it to create conflict, and then understanding resolution while also building on characterization, doing all that, but having clarity, having that context, having the subtext, right? That's what makes a great writer, is having control over something, no matter how simplified it is or how complex it is. It all maintains purpose. It all maintains control. So that's something to think about. As far as plotting software and outline tools, I agree. 0%. No one should be voting for that. But I do like plotting, and I also do like outlining, but I don't like the tools. And I'll tell you why. The tools make me, when I'm working on like, I know Scrivener has it, but there's another, there's like some programs where like, here's a character sheet, and it tells you to like kind of map out your character in the sheet. But the problem is now I'm thinking about those questions. What's their motivation? And then you're just sitting there like, well, what is the motivation? Instead of working on the outline, where the outline kind of creates the motivation based on their agency. Like we're creating things to happen. We're moving them from point A to point B to point C because remember, plot is what needs to happen. So, the story element is where you get to kind of play with who they are and why they are. But while you're building your outline, you're going to start seeing their motivation in physical representation. And now you can be like, oh, well, now I know what their motivation is. Instead of going and going, well, I have nothing. So abstractly, what is their motive? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the tools, the programs where like they're like, answer these questions. Like I feel like that stifles it. And that's another reason I lean towards the 27 plot point outline, because it says the ordinary world. This is where you establish the status quo, who the character is, why they are, and then you can play with that. And you could do anything you want, and you're not answering questions per se. You're just focused on the rules of that plot point. The inciting incident disrupts whatever the ordinary world is, or the status quo, and that means I could do anything I want, but whatever I do must disrupt what I set up in the outline for the first plot point. So It's just something. Anyway, thoughts, ideas, questions about what we just discussed. If not, you can ask me questions about your writing. I'm going to take a sip of the soda. But anyway. By the way, I got to chapter 31 in my outline, so I really like that I was able to do that. That's really fun. This narrative is becoming something interesting to me. I started like that at the end of last year with ooh. Then you popped up and I spotted the 27 PPs. Wait, I'm an adult. And that struck more of a chord. Oh, yes. With another channel. I started like that. Oh, I see what you're saying. With the character sheets and like all that stuff. Yeah, it's sort of like if you ask a beta reader, what do you like, what don't you like, and what would you like to see more of? What's happening? You're directing them to find an answer to what do they like and what don't they like. So now they're like, what don't I like? Maybe there wasn't anything they didn't like, but you're asking, so now I have to look for it. And it kind of disrupts this process instead of asking a question that makes them think, Yeah, the sheet type of characterization, I've always found that stifling. I've always found that sort of like, it limits the discovery of what a character truly is based on their behavior. I would rather see their behavior lead me to find who they are than to sit here for a week, a month, a day, or whatever, and just be like, yeah, but what's their favorite color is purple, but why? And again, if that's your method, there is nothing wrong. Whatever works for you, works for you. I'm just saying personally, I've never found myself developing a strong, three-dimensional, interesting character based on, answering questions. Because, again, it's like, what's that old thing? Like, what is your ideal person to date? And then, like, most people name all these things, and usually it's like, well, they're good looking. They need to be good looking, and they need to be whatever, and they have to have money, and they have to have a good personality, they have to blah, 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 right? And then, a month or two later, you see them dating someone that looks nothing like the list that they created, and it's because they met somebody that there was something more to them than the statistics of mapping them out and allowing the numbers to play the matchmaker. Like, oh, they have to be 6'2" and they have to be this and they have. So imagine you just created these limitations just in real life. Well, that's what I feel the sheets for characterizations do. They create limitations because ultimately, well, I can't talk to you unless you have red hair. If you don't have red hair, then we can't even. But like, you talk to somebody and like, wow, you're amazing, and they're like, I thought you only like redheads, and it's like, it's not really. Apparently, I like this kind of person who has this kind of speech and this kind of thought and this brain and these passions and these likes and dislikes and I love their opinions and their thoughts on things. Wow, we really spent like 3 hours just discussing some abstract idea that was just about philosophy and the meaning of life, and we agreed and disagreed on things, and there was no fighting, and this was really great relation. You can't put that on a sheet. Yeah, or at least I don't think you can. Like, you're not going to think about that on the sheet, because the sheet's like, what's their hair color? What's their height? What's their gender? What's their sexuality? What's their, whatever, are they tall? Are they short? Are they fat? Are they thin? And like, none of that matters. And I'll die on this hill. Good characters start internally, and then are represented externally. If you start externally, that's a thing, an idea. And then if you allow that external to decide what the internal truth is, now you're going to start leaning into what we call stereotypes. And it happens. And you certainly don't know that before you start. For sure. Yes, 100%. Like, you can't know who these people are until you start seeing their behaviors, until you start feeling And that's the thing, like when you know a character, you know their choice. Like you might write that they did something and you're like, woof, that does not feel right. This character wouldn't do that. And it's because they're just becoming so dimensional on the page that even you as the writer, who could do anything you want, by the way, you can just be like, this person just kills somebody. And you're like, well, they would never do that. And you're like, you know what? They do. Like you could do that. But something in your core is like, this character just wouldn't do that. And you can't discover that in a sheet of questions. You can only discover that through the questions that are formed based on the outline where you're like, oh, why did my character do this? You know? That's how I got stuck. I learned who my people were through the line. Yes, yeah. And I think it's so organically natural to just be witnessing who these characters are through their choices, their why they did or didn't do something. You know, the dialogue really brings them to life. I mean, Flowers, you watched the Sunday, the book writing series, and even there, like when I was playing with dialogue for the computer, I was like, yes, this is the direction I need to go with the computer. Like it just was like everything was saying this is right, you know, and you can't figure that out on a sheet. You can't just sit there and be like, my computer's going to be quirky. You know, like, well, now I have to write my computer quirky. And then you realize, oh, maybe the computer doesn't sound good quirky. But you find yourself in those positions that really help. What? Hey, baby. The kitty cat has arrived. The kitty cat has arrived. Hi ho, Mary. Okay. Whew, I guess that's it. We did good today. I'm excited about tomorrow. We flew through last week on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We flew through 2 chapters. It's unbelievable. So what are we on? I think we're on chapter 7 I think we're on 8, right? We're on chapter maybe 7 or 8. Tomorrow, I'm really excited about tomorrow. I think I can finish the extended the zero draft of the next couple chapters for. I think I could complete Act 1 tomorrow. That's my goal. But again, you're allowed to change things up. So as a writer, when you set yourself, I'm going to write 500 words today. Like if you write 100, you still accomplished what you needed to accomplish. Okay, don't feel like you failed because you didn't hit the 300. Like you're allowed to allow things to happen. Okay. All right. I guess I'll do my my little spiel before I go. Make a right left. By the way, I updated makearightlefthehere.com. We got people always come first. Been catching up on some of your vids. I've missed lately 2 con language behinds. I hope you're enjoying that series. I know it's not the most popular series, but I really did enjoy kind of like dissecting that. And I hope that the next 10 videos in that series, as in like once the first 10 are done, the next 10, I'm going to develop a language in real time over the course of this series. So that should be fun. I'm aiming for the resolution of PP19 tomorrow. I like it. Wow, you're pretty far, yeah, because you're in Act 3, right? Yeah, very good. It's one of my favorite series. Oh, wow. Ro, that means a lot to me. Thank you for that. I appreciate that love. I do what I do. I try to make it entertaining and educational. That's the one thing I think people have to, like, my audience has to really, like, just people in general who are finding the channel, like, he's an educational writing channel, like, instead of just like 5 things that'll make a language important to you. I try to make it a little bit more educational and really, like, try to dig into the things. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, I love the outlining videos. I can talk about outlining for years. I'm very passionate about developing story, and narratives. Anyway, I updated makearightlefthehere.com, especially the novels channel. I got some extra news stuff on the homepage. So if you haven't already, makearightlefthehere.com. Do you have what it takes to make a right left here? Do you, punk? I try to update it once a week, and I'm always adding to it. But more importantly, I've been. You'll see there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. But if you're like, where can I see this guy? How can I get involved with this guy? How can I support this person and his beard? MakeARightLeftHere.com. That's always the place to go. And of course, if you haven't done so already and you've been watching all the way up to this point, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, and maybe a little like and a share, something, a little love. But these productivity hours, sharing, really, these are more one and dones. You watch, you enjoy, you have some fun. But we did talk about some fun stuff. I did like talking about, Afghani had a really great thought. I like talking into that and stuff like that. Also, we get surprise visits by the lovely Nicole, which I recommend following Nicole, Bookish Nook, if you haven't done already, and Emma Bennett. And of course, anyone else here who has a YouTube channel specifically with content, support and share. All right, there we go. That's it. We're going. We're out. Let's see. Where's my video? Okay, here it goes. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. I'll see you tomorrow, every Saturday and Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Woo! As always, keep developing the right mindsets. Bye!